"You were never enough for me, Alara. You must have known that." The words cut through the ceremonial hall like silver through flesh. Alara stood frozen in her simple gray dress, while Marcus, the man she had loved for 5 years, looked at her with something worse than hatred. Pity. Around them, the entire Silver Moon Pack had gone silent, hundreds of eyes watching her humiliation unfold like a sacred ritual. "I need a mate who can stand beside me when I become Beta. Someone with status. With power. With a wolf." He paused, letting that last word sink into her bones. "You have nothing to offer me but mediocrity." Alara felt something crack inside her chest, something that had been holding her together through years of secret meetings, whispered promises, and the endless waiting for him to finally claim her publicly. Her hand moved to the silver ring on her finger, the promise ring he had given her 3 years ago during a full moon, when he had sworn she was his forever. The metal suddenly felt like it was burning her skin. "I understand," she heard herself say, and her voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else entirely. "I release you from any obligation you might have felt toward me." The gasping murmurs that rippled through the crowd told her that her calm acceptance was not what anyone had expected, least of all Marcus, whose eyebrows drew together in confusion. She walked through the parting crowd with her head high, each step measured and deliberate, even though her vision had started to blur with unshed tears. No one tried to stop her. No one offered comfort. She was the Omega who had dared to dream above her station, and now she was receiving exactly what the pack believed she deserved. The cold night air hit her face as she pushed through the ceremonial hall doors, and she kept walking, past the pack houses, past the training grounds, past the boundaries of everything she had ever known. Her feet carried her to the Silver River, the ancient waterway that marked the eastern border of their territory, its surface reflecting the full moon like liquid mercury. Alara stood on the bank, her breathing ragged now that she was alone, and slowly pulled the ring from her finger. It was a simple band, silver with tiny wolf engravings that Marcus had said represented their bond, their future, their destiny. How many nights had she traced those engravings while lying alone in her small room, convincing herself that the secrecy was temporary, that the waiting would be worth it? Lies, she whispered to the river. All of it was lies. She pulled her arm back and threw the ring with all the strength born from 5 years of suppressed rage, heartbreak, and humiliation. The ring arced through the air, catching the moonlight, and hit the water with a small splash that should have meant nothing. Should have been just another piece of discarded metal sinking into the riverbed. But the moment the ring touched the water, everything changed. The river erupted with light, silver and gold flames dancing across its surface without burning, spreading outward in concentric circles that grew wider and brighter with each passing second. Alara stumbled backward as the ground beneath her feet began to vibrate, a low humming that she felt in her bones, in her blood, in places she had not known existed inside her. The ring was glowing beneath the water, pulsing with a rhythm that matched her heartbeat, and she realized with dawning horror that something was waking up, something that had been sleeping for a very long time. "What did you do?" The voice came from behind her, and Alara spun to find Marcus standing at the tree line, his face pale in the unnatural light emanating from the river. "What the hell did you do, Alara?" She wanted to answer, but she could not form words because the humming had become a roar, and the light was so bright now that she had to shield her eyes. The river was rising, water defying. Gravity, twisting into shapes that looked almost like wolves, like ancient guardians made of liquid silver. And then, as suddenly as it had started, everything stopped. The light vanished. The water fell back into its normal course. The night became silent except for the usual sounds of the forest. But Alara knew, with absolute certainty, that she had just done something that could not be undone. In the royal Shadowmere Palace, 300 miles to the north, Alpha King Darius Blackthorn jerked awake from a dream of silver flames and ancient songs. His chest was burning, right over his heart, where the royal mark had been since his 18th birthday. He threw back the silk sheets and strode to the window, his wolf prowling just beneath his skin, agitated in a way he had never experienced before. "My king?" His beta Nathaniel appeared in the doorway, already dressed despite the late hour. "You felt it too." It was not a question. Nathaniel nodded, his face grave. "Every wolf with royal blood felt it. The council is already gathering. They are saying it is impossible, that the bloodline died out centuries ago, but the resonance was unmistakable." Darius pressed his hand against the burning mark on his chest, and in his mind's eye, he saw her. A woman with dark hair and eyes the color of storm clouds, standing by a river, throwing something precious into the water. He did not know her name. He did not know her face beyond that brief vision. But his wolf knew her. Scent, knew the taste of her power, knew with absolute certainty that she belonged to him. "Prepare my guard," Darius said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute command. "We leave for the Silver Moon Pack at dawn. And Nathaniel, send word ahead. Tell Alpha Kenneth that I am coming to claim what is mine, and he had better pray to the moon goddess that she is still alive and unharmed when I arrive." Alara spent the rest of the night sitting on her bedroom floor, knees drawn to her chest, trying to understand what had happened. The power that had erupted from the ring should have been impossible. She was wolfless, had been since birth, a genetic anomaly in a world where your wolf defined your worth. She had no magic, no special abilities, nothing that would explain the river's reaction. Unless Marcus's ring had been cursed. Unless this was some final cruelty, some way to mark her as even more of an outcast than she already was. When the sun finally rose, Alara made a decision. She would leave the Silver Moon Pack, would take the small amount of money she had saved from her work in the pack kitchens, and would disappear into one of the human cities where no one cared whether you had a wolf or not. She was packing her few belongings into a worn backpack when the howl echoed across the territory. It was not the usual morning call. This was the sound of the entire pack being summoned by their alpha, the kind of howl that meant emergency, that meant everyone needed to gather immediately at the ceremonial grounds. Alara's hand stilled on the threadbare shirt she was folding. Whatever was happening, it had to be connected to last night. She could feel it in the way her skin prickled, in the way the air itself seemed charged with anticipation. She joined the stream of pack members heading toward the ceremonial grounds, keeping her head down, trying to blend into the crowd. But she felt their stares, heard their whispers. "That is the one who threw the ring. I..." Heard the river lit up like daylight. "Kenneth is furious. He thinks she brought a curse down on us." The ceremonial grounds were already packed when she arrived. Hundreds of wolves standing in their family groups, all facing the raised platform where Alpha Kenneth stood flanked by his Beta and Gamma. Marcus was there too, and his new fiancée, Celeste, daughter of the wealthiest merchant family in the pack. Celeste's hand was possessively wrapped around Marcus's arm, and her smile was triumphant when her eyes found Alara in the crowd. "Silence," Kenneth commanded, and the murmuring stopped instantly. He was a large man, built like the warriors of old, with gray streaking his dark hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "Last night, our territory experienced a magical phenomenon of unprecedented power, a phenomenon that originated from one of our own." His gaze swept across the crowd and landed on Alara like a physical blow. Alara Moonshadow, step forward. The crowd parted like she carried disease, and Alara found herself walking toward the platform on legs that threatened to buckle. She climbed the steps, feeling the weight of hundreds of stairs, and stood before her alpha, head bowed in the required show of submission. "Look at me," Kenneth ordered, and she obeyed, meeting his eyes for the first time in her life. What she saw there made her blood run cold. Fear. Her alpha was afraid of her. What did you do to the river?" His voice was steady, but she could hear the tension beneath it. "I threw away a ring," Alara answered honestly. "A promise ring that Marcus had given me. I did not know it would cause any reaction. I did not know it held any power. The ring was nothing special," Marcus interjected from his position beside Celeste. "Just a simple silver band I bought from a traveling merchant. There was no magic in it." "Then how do you explain what half the pack witnessed?" Kenneth's question hung in the air. "How do you explain the river burning with light? The tremors that were felt across 3 territories? The resonance that even the royal pack detected?" "I cannot explain it," Alara said, and it was the truth. "I have no magic. I have no wolf. I am nobody." "You are something," a new voice said, and the entire assembly froze. The voice had come from beyond the ceremonial grounds, from the tree line where the forest met the clearing, and it carried a power that made every wolf present instinctively lower their heads. Every wolf except Alara, who found herself turning toward the source of that voice, her body moving without conscious thought. He emerged from the shadows like a king from legend, and Alara's breath caught in her throat. He was tall, easily 6.5 feet, with broad shoulders that spoke of both strength and command. His hair was black as midnight, worn longer than was fashionable, and his eyes were the most unusual color she had ever seen, a silver so light they were almost white, gleaming with an inner fire. He wore the black and crimson of the royal pack, and on his chest, clearly visible despite the formal jacket, was the mark of the Alpha King, an intricate wolf design that seemed to move in the morning light. Behind him walked 12 warriors, each one radiating the kind of power that marked them as elite guards. And bringing up the rear was a man with auburn hair and sharp green eyes who could only be his beta. "Your Majesty." Kenneth immediately dropped to one knee, and the rest of the pack followed suit like dominoes falling. Alara found herself frozen, the only person still standing besides the Alpha King himself, and his eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that stole the air from her lungs. "You are Alara," he said, and it was not a question. He walked toward her with a predator's grace, closing the distance between them in a handful of strides, and she could smell him now. Pine and winter storms, and something wild that called to a part of her she had not known. Existed. "I am Darius Blackthorn, Alpha King of all packs, and I have been searching for you for 300 years. The pronouncement hung in the air like thunder before a storm. Alara stared at the man before her, trying to process his words, trying to understand why the most powerful alpha in their world was looking at her like she was a treasure he had spent lifetimes seeking. "Your Majesty," Kenneth said from his kneeling position, his voice carefully respectful but confused. "Surely, there is some mistake. Alara is just an Omega. She has no wolf, no lineage of note, no power to speak of. She cannot be whoever you are searching for." Darius did not even glance at the other alpha. His eyes remained fixed on Alara, and she watched as he slowly lifted his hand, reaching toward her face. She knew she should step back, should show the proper deference to a king, but her feet seemed rooted to the ground. His fingers stopped an inch from her cheek, and she felt heat radiating from his palm, felt a pull so strong it was like gravity itself was trying to bring them together. "She carries the bloodline of the Moon Blessed," Darius said quietly, but his voice carried across the entire assembly. "The same bloodline that was hunted to extinction 3 centuries ago. The same bloodline that bonded with the first Alpha Kings and gave our people the strength to survive the Great War. The same bloodline that is the only one capable of producing a true mate bond with the royal line." Gasps echoed through the crowd, but Alara barely heard them. Her mind was reeling, trying to grasp the impossibility of what he was saying. "That cannot be true," she whispered. "My parents were ordinary wolves. My mother was an Omega like me. My father died before I was born, but everyone said he was just a low-ranking warrior. There is nothing special about my blood." Your mother lied to protect you, Darius said, and there was something almost gentle in his expression now. The moon. Blessed were slaughtered because their power threatened those who wanted to control the packs through force rather than sacred bonds. The few who survived went into hiding, suppressed their abilities, bred with ordinary wolves to dilute the bloodline enough that it would not be detected. But the power never truly disappears. It simply sleeps, waiting for the right moment to wake. The ring, Alara breathed, understanding dawning. When I threw it into the river, the act of severing a false bond while under the full moon, combined with your emotional state, it was enough to crack the seal that your mother's bloodline had placed on your power. Darius finally let his hand drop, but she could still feel the phantom warmth where he had almost touched her. The ring itself meant nothing, but your intent, your will to be free, that was everything. This is insane. Marcus's voice cut through the moment, sharp with disbelief. You are saying that Alara, wolfless, powerless Alara, is some kind of ancient magical being? She lived in this pack for 23 years and showed no signs of anything special. She could not even shift. She could not even feel her wolf. Darius turned then, and the look he gave Marcus made the younger man stumble backward. She could not access her wolf because the bloodline seal prevented it, but I assure you, her wolf is very much present and very much powerful, more powerful than yours will ever be, Beta Marcus. The title was spoken like an insult. If you are enjoying this story, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one. Alara felt a stirring deep inside her, in a place that had always been silent and empty. It was like something was moving in the darkness, uncurling from a long sleep, and she pressed a hand to her chest, gasping at the sensation. What is happening to me? She asked. But she was not sure if she was speaking to Darius or to whatever was waking up inside. Her. Your wolf is responding to mine, Darius said, and she heard satisfaction in his voice. The mate bond is recognizing itself. Can you feel it, Alara? Can you feel the pull? She could. It was like a rope tied around her ribs, tugging her toward him, making her want to close the distance between them, to touch him, to breathe him in. But she also felt anger, hot and fierce, because this man, this king, had appeared out of nowhere and was talking about her like she was a possession to be. Claimed. A puzzle piece that fit into his destiny. I do not care what bloodline I carry, Alara said, and her voice came out stronger than she expected. I do not care about ancient history or mate bonds or royal obligations. I am done being used by men who think they have a claim on me. She took a step back, deliberately breaking eye contact with Darius. I reject this. I reject you. Find someone else to fulfill your prophecies or whatever this is. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind seemed to stop moving through the trees. Darius stared at her with an expression she could not read, and then, slowly, a smile curved his lips. Not a kind smile. Not a gentle smile. A smile that promised both challenge and retribution, and it made something low in her belly clench with an emotion she did not want to name. You reject me, he repeated, as if testing the words, finding them fascinating. Do you have any idea what you have just done, little Omega? I have claimed my right to choose my own path, Alara said, lifting her chin in defiance. Something I should have done a long time ago. Alara, Kenneth hissed from behind her, still on his knees. You cannot reject the Alpha King. This is beyond insult. This is beyond anything that can be forgiven. You are putting the entire pack in danger. The pack will be perfectly safe, Darius said, his eyes never leaving Alara's face. Because I am not leaving without her. Your rejection is noted, Alara Moonshadow. Daughter of the Moon blessed. But rejection can be overcome. Mates can be won, and I have never failed to claim what belongs to me. I do not belong to anyone, Ilara shot back, but her voice wavered slightly because the pull was getting stronger, and his scent was making it hard to think clearly. Not anymore. We will see about that, Darius said softly, and then he turned to address Kenneth. I will be staying in your territory for the next week. Provide accommodations for myself and my guard. During this time, Ilara is under my personal protection. Anyone who harms her, insults her, or attempts to interfere with her in any way will answer directly to me. Is that understood? Kenneth's face had gone pale, but he nodded. Of course, Your Majesty. The pack house has guest suites that we would be honored to have you use. Good. Darius looked back at Ilara one last time, and she saw hunger in those silver eyes. Hunger and determination, and something that might have been admiration. I will give you time to process what you have learned. But make no mistake, Ilara. You can run from me. You can fight me. You can reject me as many times as you like. But in the end, you will understand that what exists between us is not a chain. It is a choice, and you will choose me. He walked away then, his guard falling into formation around him, leaving Ilara standing alone on the platform, while the entire pack stared at her with a mixture of fear, awe, and resentment. She had gone from invisible to the center of attention in the span of a single night, and she had no idea how to navigate this new reality. You have doomed us all, Celeste's voice rang out from the crowd, sharp with malice. The Alpha King will punish the entire pack for your disrespect. Whatever happens next, it is on your head. Ilara looked at the woman who would marry Marcus, saw the hatred in her perfectly made-up face, and felt nothing. No jealousy. No pain. Just a distant recognition that she had wasted years of her life caring about the opinions of people who had never cared about her. If I have doomed you, then we are finally even, Ilara said quietly, and turned to walk off the platform. She made it 3 steps before her knees buckled and the world spun sideways. She expected to hit the ground, but instead, she felt strong arms catch her, felt the scent of pine and winter storms surround her, and realized that Darius had moved faster than her eyes could track. He was holding her. Against his chest, one arm under her knees, the other supporting her back, and his face was so close to hers that she could see flecks of dark gray in his silver eyes. What did I just say about anyone harming you? He murmured. But he was not speaking to her. His gaze was fixed on the crowd, on Celeste specifically, and his expression was deadly. Your words were designed to cause her emotional distress. That counts as harm in my book. I only spoke the truth, Your Majesty, Celeste said, but her voice had lost its confidence. The truth is that your pack has treated their most valuable member like garbage for her entire life, and now you are angry that she has attracted the attention of someone who can see her worth. Darius shifted his hold on Ilara, pulling her closer, and she was too disoriented from whatever had just happened to protest. Her collapse was caused by her awakening bloodline trying to emerge while she is emotionally and physically exhausted. She needs rest. She needs proper food. She needs care. He started walking toward the pack house, carrying her like she weighed nothing. Nathaniel, have the pack doctor meet me in the guest suite in 10 minutes, and have someone bring a meal suitable for someone who has been chronically malnourished. I am not malnourished, Ilara protested weakly, but her voice sounded thin even to her own ears. When was the last time you ate a full meal? Darius asked, looking down at her. Not scraps from the pack kitchen. Not leftovers. A full, proper meal. She opened her mouth to answer, and realized she could not remember. A week ago? 2 weeks? Food had always been scarce for the lowest-ranking pack members, and she had learned to survive on very little. Her silence was answer enough. She saw his jaw tighten, saw fury flash across his features, but when he spoke again, his voice was gentle. It ends now. The neglect, the mistreatment, all of it, ends now." He carried her through the pack house, ignoring the stares of the wolves they passed, and kicked open the door to what must have been the best guest suite. It was larger than her entire living space, with a massive bed covered in soft furs, a stone fireplace that was already crackling with warmth, and windows that overlooked the forest. Darius set her down carefully on the bed, and immediately she felt the loss of his warmth, the absence of his touch. The mate bond hummed with displeasure, wanting him closer, and she gritted her teeth against the sensation. "I did not ask for your help," she said, because accepting his care felt dangerous, felt like it would weaken her resolve to stay independent. "I know," Darius replied, pulling a chair over to sit beside the bed. "You did not ask for any of this, but you have it anyway, and you are going to have to deal with that reality." They stared at each other for a long moment, and Alara was struck by how comfortable he seemed in this situation, how completely in control. She was the one who felt like her world had been turned upside down, but he looked like he had been preparing for this moment his entire life. "Tell me about the moon, blessed," she finally said, because if she was going to understand what was happening to her, she needed information. What were they? What happened to them? Darius leaned back in the chair, his silver eyes distant as he reached into memory. The moon blessed were the first wolves chosen by the moon goddess herself. They had abilities that went beyond normal shifter traits. They could heal with a touch. They could communicate with all wolves, not just their own pack. They could see glimpses of the future during the full moon. And most importantly, they could form perfect mate bonds with the alpha bloodlines. Bonds so strong that the paired wolves became nearly invincible in battle, their powers amplifying each other. "That sounds like a fairy tale," Alara said, but she remembered the river burning with silver light, remembered the feeling of something ancient waking inside her, and she knew it was not. "Every legend has truth at its core," Darius said. 300 years ago, there was a faction of alphas who believed that power should be taken, not gifted. They saw the moon blessed as a threat to their control, because a true mate bond could not be forced or broken or manipulated. So they orchestrated a purge. Entire families were slaughtered in a single night. Those who survived went into hiding so deep that their descendants forgot what they were. "How do you know all this?" Alara asked. "Because my great-great-grandfather was mated to one of the moon blessed who died in the purge," Darius said, and pain flickered across his face. "Her name was Liana Silverstream, and she was pregnant with his child when they killed her. He went mad with grief, hunted down every alpha involved in the conspiracy, and established the royal pack as the supreme authority to prevent such a thing from ever happening again. But he also tasked every alpha king who came after him with a sacred mission: find the surviving moon-blessed bloodline, protect it, restore what was lost. And you think I am that bloodline," Alara said quietly. "I do not think. I know." Darius leaned forward, his intensity almost overwhelming. "The moment that ring hit the water and your power awakened, every wolf with royal blood felt it. It was like a beacon lighting up the darkness, calling to us, telling us that what we thought was extinct had only been sleeping. Your blood sings to mine, Alara. My wolf recognizes yours even though you cannot shift yet. This is not a mistake. This is not coincidence. This is destiny." A knock at the door interrupted them, and Nathaniel entered carrying a covered tray, while an elderly woman with kind eyes followed behind him. "Your Majesty," Nathaniel said with a slight bow. "The meal you requested, and this is Dr. Helena, the pack physician." "Thank you, Nathaniel. You can leave the tray. Dr. Helena, please examine her and tell me exactly what condition she is in." The next 20 minutes were a blur of being poked and prodded while Alara tried to maintain some dignity. Dr. Helena's face grew increasingly grim as she worked, and Alara could feel Darius's anger building like a storm in the corner of the room. "Chronic malnutrition," Helena finally pronounced, turning to face the Alpha King. Vitamin deficiencies, signs of repeated injury that healed poorly, probably. From lack of proper medical care. She is underweight by at least 15 pounds for her height and bone structure. If I had to guess, I would say she has been systematically denied resources for years. Denied or simply given last priority? Darius asked, his voice dangerously soft. Does it matter? The result is the same. This young woman has been slowly starving while living in a pack that should have been caring for her. Helena looked at Alara with sympathy. You are strong to have survived. This long in such conditions. But you cannot continue this way. Your awakening bloodline will require significant energy. You need to eat, rest, and allow your body to heal, or the transformation could kill you. Transformation? Alara repeated. Your wolf is going to emerge, Helena explained. It might take days or weeks, but it is coming. And unlike normal first shifts that happen in adolescence, yours will be more intense because your wolf is fully mature and has been trapped for over 2 decades. You need to be as physically and mentally strong as possible when it happens. After Helena left, Darius uncovered the tray and revealed more food than Alara usually saw in a week. Roasted meat, fresh bread, vegetables cooked in butter, fruit that must have cost a fortune. Her stomach growled loudly, betraying her hunger, and she saw a flicker of satisfaction cross Darius's face. Eat, he commanded, and it was not a request. I do not take orders from you, Alara said automatically. But she was already reaching for the bread because the smell was making her mouth water. Consider it a strongly worded suggestion then, Darius replied, and she detected amusement in his tone. They fell into silence while she ate, and Alara was ashamed by how quickly she devoured the food, how she could not seem to stop herself from taking bite after bite. When was the last time she had felt truly full? When was the last time food had tasted like something other than obligation? Slower, Darius said gently when she started to choke on a piece of meat. Your stomach is not used to this much food. You will make yourself sick. She forced herself to slow down, to chew properly, and felt tears pricking at her eyes for reasons she could not fully explain. Maybe it was the kindness in his voice. Maybe it was the realization of how badly she had been treated for so long that a simple meal felt like luxury. Maybe it was just everything finally catching up with her. Why are you being nice to me? She asked, setting down the fork because her emotions were too close to the surface. You do not know me. You just know what my bloodline is supposed to be. I am being nice to you because you are my mate, Darius said simply. And because even if you were not, you would still deserve basic decency and care. Those are not things you should have to earn, Alara. Those are things that should be given freely. Marcus said I was not worth caring about, she heard herself say, and immediately regretted it. She did not want to sound weak. She did not want to give voice to the insecurities that had been carved into her over years of rejection. Marcus is a fool who could not recognize treasure when it was right in front of him, Darius said, and there was steel in his voice now. And I suspect that was deliberate. I suspect he knew on some level that you were extraordinary, and it terrified him. So he kept you small, kept you doubting yourself, kept you focused on earning. His scraps of affection, so you would never realize your own power. The words hit her like a physical blow because they rang with truth. How many times had Marcus told her she was lucky he paid attention to her at all? How many times had he made her feel like she should be grateful for the smallest kindness? I was such an idiot, she whispered. No, Darius said firmly. You were someone who deserved better than what you were given. There is a difference. What do you think will happen next? Leave your predictions in the comments below. The rest of the day passed in a strange limbo. Darius had business to attend to with Kenneth regarding pack politics and territory agreements, so he left Alara in the guest suite with instructions to rest. But rest was impossible, when her mind would not stop spinning with everything she had learned. She was descended from an ancient magical bloodline. She had a wolf that was finally beginning to wake. She was supposedly the destined mate of the most powerful alpha in their world, and she had rejected him in front of hundreds of witnesses. She must be losing her mind. Night had fallen when she heard shouting from somewhere in the pack house. Alara moved to the window and saw torches being lit in the ceremonial grounds, saw wolves gathering in angry clusters. She could not hear what they were saying, but the body language was clear. They were afraid, they were angry, and they blamed her. A soft knock at the door made her spin around, and she called out permission to enter, expecting Darius or Nathaniel. Instead, Celeste glided into the room, looking immaculate in a designer dress that probably cost more than Alara had earned in a year of kitchen work. "We need to talk," Celeste said, closing the door behind her. "I do not think we have anything to say to each other," Alara replied, crossing her arms defensively. "On the contrary, we have quite a bit to discuss." Celeste moved to the window, looking out at the gathering crowd. "Do you see them? Those are pack members who are terrified of what your presence might bring down on us. The Alpha King is powerful, yes, but his enemies are numerous. If word spreads that the moon-blessed bloodline has been found, every ambitious alpha and dark magic practitioner in the territories will come looking for you. And this pack will be caught in the crossfire." "That is not my fault," Alara said, but doubt crept into her voice. "Is it not?" Celeste turned to face her, and her beautiful features were cold. "You could have thrown that ring away anywhere. You could have kept your head down and accepted your place. But you had to make a dramatic gesture, had to draw attention to yourself, and now we are all paying the price." "I did not know what would happen," Alara protested. "That does not change the consequences." Celeste walked closer, and Alara caught the scent of expensive perfume and underlying malice. "Here is what is going to happen. You are going to tell the Alpha King that you made a mistake, that you are not his mate, that the magical resonance was just a fluke. Then you are going to leave this territory quietly and never come back." "And if I do not?" Alara asked, even though part of her wondered if Celeste might be right, if leaving might be the best option for everyone. "Then I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are," Celeste said sweetly. "I will tell them about the times you deliberately tried to seduce Marcus away from me. I will tell them about how you have been plotting to use your supposed bloodline to gain power. I will paint you as a manipulative opportunist, and people will believe me, because I have status, and you have nothing." "That is all lies," Alara said, anger flaring. "Is it? Can you prove it?" Celeste smiled. "Your word against mine, Alara. And we both know whose word carries more weight." The door slammed open before Alara could respond, and Darius stood in the doorway, his silver eyes blazing with fury. "Get out," he said to Celeste, and his voice carried the full weight of his alpha command. Celeste went pale, her body instinctively responding to the command by moving toward the door, but she managed to maintain her composure. "I was just welcoming our guest, Your Majesty, making sure she had everything she needed." "You were threatening her," Darius said flatly. "I heard every word from the hallway. Now get out before I forget that you are supposedly under Kenneth's protection and deal with you the way you deserve." Celeste fled, and Darius closed the door behind her, his hands clenched into fists. "Are you all right?" he asked Alara, and she saw him visibly trying to control his rage. "I am fine," she said, but her voice shook. "She is right, though. Is she not? My presence here is putting the pack in danger. Maybe I should just leave, go somewhere far away where no one knows about the moon-blessed or mate bonds or any of this." "No." Darius crossed the room in 3 strides and took her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You do not run. You do not hide. You do not let small-minded people dictate your choices. You are moon-blessed, Ilara. You are more powerful than they can imagine. And you are going to stand tall and claim that power, because the world needs what you can become. I do not know how to be powerful, she whispered. I have spent my whole life being invisible. Then I will teach you, Darius said, and his thumb brushed across her cheek in a gesture so tender it made her heart ache. I will show you how to find your strength, how to trust your instincts, how to become the woman you were always meant to be, if you will let me. Ilara stared into his silver eyes and felt the mate bond singing between them, urging her to accept, to lean into his touch, to trust this man who had appeared in her life like a storm. But trust was not something she could give easily, not after everything she had been through. I need time, she said. I need space to figure out who I am without someone else telling me. I can give you time, Darius agreed. But he did not step back, did not remove his hands from her face. But I cannot give you complete space, because there are forces that will try to harm you the moment I am not watching. So you get monitored space, guarded time, and my absolute commitment to respect your boundaries while still keeping you safe. It was a compromise she had not expected, and it made her see him differently. Not as a king demanding his due, but as a man trying to navigate an impossible situation with someone who had every reason not to trust him. All right, she said quietly. We can try that. The smile that spread across his face was like the sun breaking through clouds, and she felt an answering warmth in her chest that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. Over the next several days, Ilara's life transformed in ways she could never have imagined. Darius kept his word about giving her space, but he was always nearby, always watching with those intense silver eyes, always ready to step in if she needed him. He brought her books about moon-blessed history, about pack politics, about the supernatural world beyond the small slice she had known. He arranged for training sessions with his guards so she could learn self-defense. He made sure she ate 3 full meals a day and got proper sleep. And slowly, so slowly she almost did not notice it happening, Ilara began to feel different, stronger, more certain, like something inside her was unfurling after years of being compressed. Her wolf was waking up. She could feel it now, a presence in her mind that whispered encouragement and growled at anyone who showed her disrespect. It was strange and wonderful and terrifying. On the 5th night of Darius's stay, Ilara woke to find her skin burning. She stumbled out of bed, gasping, and realized that silver light was emanating from her body, the same silver light that had erupted from the river. Darius, she called out, not sure if he would hear, but he was through the door in seconds, still pulling on his shirt. It is happening, he said, and there was excitement in his voice. Your wolf is ready to emerge. We need to get you outside, away from the pack house. The first shift can be destructive. He wrapped her in a cloak and carried her into the forest, moving so fast that the trees became a blur. They reached a clearing just as the pain hit. A sensation. Like her bones were trying to reorganize themselves from the inside out. Ilara screamed, falling to her knees, and felt Darius's hands on her shoulders. I know it hurts, he said, his voice steady despite her agony. But you have to let it happen. Do not fight it. Let your wolf come forward. She tried. She tried to relax into the pain, to open herself to the transformation, but fear kept getting in the way. What if her wolf was as weak as everyone always said she was? What if this was all a mistake? Ilara, Darius's voice cut through her panic. Look at me. She opened her eyes and met his silver gaze. You are not weak. You have never been weak. You survived years of neglect and cruelty, and you are still standing. You are still fighting. That is not weakness. That is strength beyond measure. Now stop being afraid of your own power and claim it. His words broke something open inside her, some final wall she had been holding on to, and she felt her wolf surge forward with a force that stole her breath. The pain intensified for one horrible moment, and then it shattered like glass. And suddenly she was not Alara the human anymore. She was wolf. She was power incarnate. She was silver and moonlight, and ancient magic made flesh. Alara looked down at her paws and saw they were larger than any wolves she had ever seen, covered in fur that shimmered silver-white in the moonlight. She turned her head and caught sight of her reflection in a nearby stream. She was beautiful. Massive and beautiful, and nothing like the small, weak creature she had always imagined she would be. A howl built in her chest and escaped before she could stop it, a sound of pure joy and triumph that echoed across the territory. And then she heard another howl answering hers, and she turned to see that Darius had shifted too. His wolf was enormous, black as midnight with those same silver eyes, and he was looking at her with something that might have been reverence. They stared at each other. For a long moment, wolf to wolf, and Alara felt the mate bond snap into full clarity. This was right. This was destiny. This was everything she had been running from, and everything she had been searching for without knowing it. She padded forward on her new legs, still awkward, still learning, and touched her nose to his. The sensation was electric, like lightning running through her veins, and she heard his wolf's voice in her mind for the first time. "Mine," he said, and it was both a claim and a question. "Yours," her wolf responded, before Alara could even think about it. If you want to see how this story ends, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. The next morning, Alara woke in her human form, wrapped in the cloak Darius had given her, with no memory of shifting back. She was lying in the clearing where her first transformation had happened, and Darius was sitting nearby, already dressed, watching the sunrise. "How do you feel?" he asked when he noticed she was awake. "Different," she said honestly. "Like I am finally whole for the first time in my life." She sat up, pulling the cloak tighter, and tried to process everything that had happened. "My wolf spoke to yours. She accepted the mate bond." "She did," Darius confirmed, and his expression was carefully neutral. "But I need to know if you accept it. Your wolf's instincts are important, but so is your human choice. I will not hold you to something you do not freely choose." Alara looked at him. This powerful king who could have demanded anything from her, but was instead giving her the freedom to decide her own fate. She thought about the past few days, about how he had protected her without controlling her, supported her without diminishing her, challenged her to be stronger without making her feel inadequate. She thought about how her wolf had recognized him instantly, how her heart had started beating differently the moment he appeared, how even her fear of being hurt again could not quite overcome the certainty that this man would never treat her the way Marcus had. "I choose you," she said, and the words felt like a vow. Not because destiny says I should, not because of bloodlines or prophecies or ancient magic, but because in the week I have known you, you have shown me more respect and care than I received in 23 years with my own pack. Because when I look at you, I see someone who values strength, but also understands vulnerability. Because my wolf trusts you, and I am learning to trust her. Darius closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened them again, she saw something raw and unguarded in his expression. "I have been searching for you for so long," he said quietly. "I did not know your face or your name, but I knew you existed somewhere. I knew that the mate the moon goddess had chosen for me was waiting to be found. And now that I have found you, now that you are standing in front of me choosing me back, I swear to you on my life, and my crown that I will spend every day earning that choice." He stood and moved toward her, dropping to one knee so they were at eye level. "Alara Moonshadow, daughter of the moon blessed, keeper of ancient power, will you accept my formal courtship? Will you give me the chance to prove that what we have is not just a bond, but a partnership built on mutual respect and genuine affection?" Yes, Alara said, and she was surprised by how easily the word came, how right it felt. Yes, I will. Accept your courtship. Darius reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring, but not like the cheap silver band Marcus had given her. This was platinum etched with ancient wolf runes, set with a moonstone that seemed to glow with inner light. This was my great-great-grandmother's ring, Darius said. The moon-blessed woman who died in the purge. My family kept it all these years, hoping that one day we would find another of her bloodline to honor her memory. It, would mean everything to me if you would wear it. Alara looked at the ring, at the history and weight it carried, and felt tears slip down her cheeks. I threw away the last ring I was given, she whispered. I know. And that act of defiance, that refusal to accept less than you deserved, is what led you to me. Darius took the ring from the box. This is not a chain, Alara. This is a promise. A promise that you will never again have to beg for scraps of affection. A promise that your worth will be recognized and honored. A promise that you will stand beside me as an equal, not beneath me as a subject. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, the moonstone warming against her skin. A promise that I will love you with everything I am, for as long as we both live. Alara threw her arms around his neck, and he caught her, pulling her close, burying his face in her hair. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, the mate bond humming with contentment between them. When they finally returned to the pack house, hand in hand, the assembled pack fell silent. Kenneth stood on the steps, his face resigned, and beside him stood Marcus and Celeste, both looking pale and shaken. I have an announcement, Darius said, his voice carrying across the grounds. Alara Moonshadow has accepted my courtship and will be returning with me to the royal pack as my acknowledged mate and future queen. Any who wish to contest this arrangement may do so. Now. The silence stretched. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Good, Darius continued. Then let it be known throughout all territories that the moon-blessed bloodline has been restored, and that any who threaten her will face the full wrath of the royal pack. She is under my protection now, and for always. He turned to Kenneth. Alpha Kenneth, I thank you for your hospitality, though I note that you have much work to do in how you treat your lower-ranking members. I suggest you start making changes, or you may find that the next time I visit, it will not be as a guest but as an enforcer of pack law. Kenneth bowed his head in acknowledgement, wisely saying nothing. Then Darius looked at Marcus, and Alara felt the temperature drop several degrees. Beta Marcus, Darius said, and his tone was ice. You had in your possession something priceless, something irreplaceable, and you threw it away for status and shallow ambition. I would pity you, but I find I cannot spare the emotion. Instead, I will simply say this. You will live the rest of your life knowing that the woman you rejected became a queen, while you remained exactly what you always were, mediocre. Marcus flinched like he had been struck, but he did not respond. What could he say? Celeste's hand fell from his arm, and Alara saw something like understanding dawn in the other woman's eyes. She had won Marcus, but it was a hollow victory, because Marcus would always know he had lost. Something far more valuable. Alara felt nothing as she looked at them. No anger, no satisfaction, no lingering pain. They were simply part of a past she was leaving behind. I am ready to go, she said to Darius, ready to start my new life. Then let us begin, he said, and swept her into his arms, carrying her toward the convoy of vehicles that would take them to the Royal Pack territory. As they drove away from the Silver Moon Pack, Alara looked back one last time at the place that had been. Her home, her prison, her proving ground. She thought about the ring she had thrown into the river, about how a single act of defiance had changed everything. She thought about the girl she had been just a week ago, small and scared and convinced she was worthless. And she smiled, because that girl was gone now, transformed into someone new, someone powerful, someone loved, someone who had finally learned that she had never needed anyone's validation to be extraordinary. She had always been Moon. Blessed. She had always been strong. She had always been worthy. She had just needed to believe it herself. "What are you thinking about?" Darius asked, his hand finding hers. "I am thinking that throwing that ring away was the best decision I ever made," Alara said. "Because it led me here. Led me to you. Led me to myself." "I am glad you threw it away too," Darius said softly. "Though I am even more glad that you chose to put on a different ring. One that represents a future, rather than a past." Alara looked down at the platinum band with its glowing moonstone, at the symbol of everything she had become and everything she would be. "The power did not call me back," she said, remembering the title of her story, understanding it now. "The power was always mine. I called myself back. I claimed myself." "Yes," Darius agreed. "And that is why you will be the strongest queen the Pax have ever known. Not because of your bloodline, though that is formidable. Not because of your mate, bond to me, though that is powerful. But because you know what it is like to be powerless, and you will never let that happen to anyone else under your protection." They drove through the night toward the royal pack, toward a future that gleamed with possibility. There would be challenges ahead, Alara knew. There would be enemies who wanted to destroy the moon-blessed bloodline before it could fully awaken. There would be political battles and magical threats and moments when she would doubt herself. But she would face all of it with her head high, with her wolf strong inside her, and with a mate who saw her not as a possession to be claimed, but as a partner to be cherished. The river had given her back to herself. The ring had been both an ending and a beginning. And now, Ilara Moonshadow, last daughter of the Moon Blessed, destined mate of the Alpha King, was ready to step into the power that had been calling her all along. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who loves epic romance. Tell me in the comments, did you see this ending coming?